movie begins with a man named Seth waking up in the morning. He follows his usual routine. On the bus, he always wears headphones and behaves in a manner typical of someone with severe social anxiety. Seth works at an animal control center, where he changes into his uniform and starts his daily tasks. He feeds the dogs one by one, addressing each by name. After finishing, he checks on a particular dog named Lexi, entering its cage to embrace it. The following morning, on his way to work, he notices a woman from his high school days named Holly Garling, who is writing in her journal. Seth removes his headphones and moves closer to her, greeting her. Holly responds and asks if they have met before. Seth reminds her that they went to high school together and that she was quite popular. However, before he can ask her out for coffee, the bus reaches her stop, and she exits. That night, Seth becomes obsessed with Holly, researching her extensively. He is thrilled to learn that she is single and loves dogs. The next morning at work, Seth seeks advice from Nate, the security guard, who resembles the nutty professor. Seth explains his interest in Holly and asks Nate what he would do in his place. Nate, initially irritated by Seth's sudden friendliness, warns him to be confident but also makes it clear that they are not friends and should not interact again. Later that day, Seth is tasked with euthanizing his beloved dog, Lexi, despite the doctor offering to let him take the dog home. Seth declines, citing his apartment's no-pet policy. That evening, he resumes researching Holly, compiling a list of her likes and dislikes and discovering where she works as a waitress. Determined, he practices how he will ask her out in front of a mirror. Dressing neatly, he visits her restaurant and sits down. Holly approaches to take his order but does not remember him. Seth reintroduces himself, reminding her of their brief bus encounter, but she claims to have no recollection. He orders water while reviewing the menu. After finishing his meal, Seth tries to invite Holly to a concert featuring a band she likes. Despite his persistence, she rejects him twice. Later that night, Holly steps outside for a cigarette before heading home. As she walks to her apartment, she senses someone following her but sees no one, unaware that Seth is hiding in the bushes. Upon entering her apartment, she greets her roommate, Claire. Holly checks the window, still feeling uneasy, but Claire dismisses her concerns as paranoia. Later, Holly receives a call from her ex-boyfriend, Eric, who is drunk. Claire advises her to move on, but Holly is unsure if she can. The next day, Holly receives a bouquet of roses at work, assuming they are from Eric. After her shift, she confronts Eric at the bar where he works, telling him to stop sending gifts. Eric denies sending the flowers, and as Holly prepares to leave, he convinces her to stay for a drink. Unbeknownst to her, Seth has followed her there. As Eric tries to persuade Holly to reconcile, she steps outside for a smoke. Seth approaches and asks if she liked the flowers. Realizing he has been stalking her, Holly becomes frightened and demands to know why he is following her. Seth insists he only wants to talk, believing they share a connection. When Holly attempts to walk away, Seth blocks her path. She shoves past him, dropping her handbag in the process, and rushes back into the bar. Seeing her distress, Eric punches Seth, knocking him down. Seth laughs, prompting Eric to kick him in the stomach before throwing him out. As Seth lies outside, he notices Holly's dropped journal and takes it. For days, Seth immerses himself in reading Holly's journal, uncovering every detail of her life. That night, Holly realizes her journal is missing. Claire asks if she included contact information for someone to return it, but she did not. Meanwhile, Seth returns to the hidden area beneath the animal control center and begins constructing a steel cage. It turns out Seth is quite skilled, perhaps welding would have been a better career path. He also steals drugs and a syringe from work, testing them on himself until he finds one that induces paralysis. With everything in place, Seth breaks into Holly's apartment one night and injects her with the paralyzing drug, kidnapping her. He transports her in a large box to his workplace. When he arrives, Nate asks him to sign in and mentions hearing strange noises, but he assumes it's just the vents. Holly eventually wakes up trapped inside the cage. She desperately tries to escape, injuring herself in the process. Screaming proves useless, as no one can hear her. Seth brings her food and water once a day. When she grabs him, begging for freedom, Seth insists they must establish boundaries in their relationship. Holly's only company is an imagined version of Claire, a figment of her mind. Claire warns her that Seth intends to kill her. Holly becomes so disturbed that she stomps a rat to death. Later, Seth tells Holly that no one truly understands her, but he does. Seth confesses to Holly that he has read her journal and is aware of her paranoia, including her hallucinations of Claire, despite Claire being dead. He knows everything. It is revealed that Eric had an affair with Claire, leading Holly to confront Claire about it during a car ride. Claire admits to the affair and apologizes, but Holly, overcome with rage, speeds up and swerves recklessly until their car is struck by a truck. Both survive but sustain injuries. Upon hearing Claire's voice, Holly pulls a broken glass shard from her stomach and stabs Claire in the eye.